The dawn after the battle was no softer than the one before it. The sky edged from black to a leaden gray that flattened the world below. The field at the wall's foot looked like some insane sculptor's work now. Black strokes of fire scars, ridges of drifted snow, sprawled hulks where giants had fallen and not yet risen again. Beyond that, where the dead had drawn back into the shroud of their storm, the horizon was wrong. A low band of pale blue-white that did not brighten as the sun climbed, but stayed steady, like the edge of some vast, waiting knife. Daenerys stood between Jon and Robb on the parapet, gloved fingers resting on the ice-slick stone. She had not slept, not in any way that counted. When she closed her eyes, she still saw Rhaegal's wing freezing over, the dragonglass spear leaving her hand through Jon's. The moment an other came apart like a shattered mirror. Drogon crouched just behind them, his bulk a living rampart. His tail curled around the base of the turret like a great black rope. Rhaegal and Viserion clung further down the wall, wings tight, their eyes half-lidded but never fully closed. "You're sure you have to go?" Jon said. It was not really a question. "No," Daenerys said honestly. "I am sure I have to try." Robb's breath steamed in front of his face. "If you take Drogon," he said, "we hold with only two." "Two are still more than the world had a year ago," she said. "And Drogon is the only one strong enough to fly so far and back again and still fight. Rhaegal needs time to heal. Viserion is impatient." Her mouth twitched. "He might decide on his own errands." Jon's gaze flicked to the horizon, then back. "Stannis might not believe you." "Melisandre will," Daenerys said. "She's already seen pieces of this in her fires." "Her fires show what suits her," he muttered. "Then I will show them something else," Daenerys replied. "Dragons on their roof. And if that fails, I will show them the truth written in my eyes. Men who have seen what we have carry it in them. Stannis will recognize that, or he is a greater fool than I think." Qyburn approached, his heavy boots crunching on the frost. "If you're going," he said without preamble, "go soon. The weather's as clear as it will get. Stay long enough and the next storm will carry you south whether you like it or not." Daenerys nodded. "Have you any more ravens for me to carry, Lord Commander?" "Aye," he said. "One for Dragonstone, one for Eastwatch to expect a fleet if we're lucky, and one for White Harbor in case we're dead by the time the ships arrive. Someone should know they came." Robb glanced at the pale band on the horizon. "We'll be here," he said, "when you return." He spoke as if it were an oath. She heard the doubt under it anyway. "If the wall falls before I'm back," Daenerys said lightly, "try not to die before I set King's Landing on fire. I'd hate to miss your face when you hear." The corner of his mouth twitched. "I expect you'll manage to haunt me even then," he said. Ghost nudged her gloved hand briefly, a cool, wet nose through the fur. She took that for the blessing it was. Daenerys turned to Drogon. "Come, my love," she whispered. "We have a southern king to terrify." The first wing beat was the hardest. Drogon pushed away from the wall with a lunge that shook the ice underfoot.
Men staggered, clutching at parapets.
His wings snapped out, catching the thin, brutal air, and for a heartbeat they hung weightless, above the sheer drop of ice and stone. Then they were falling forward, the drop turning into flight. Daenerys flattened herself along his neck, her thighs clamping around the base of his shoulders, fingers gripping the leather loops she'd had sewn there. The wind clawed at her face, seared her throat, ripped tears from the corners of her eyes and froze them before they could fall. The world tilted, the wall, that impossible height, shrinking behind them into a pale scar against the north. They flew south. The land unrolled beneath them in hard strokes of white and dark. Forests like spilled ink, frozen rivers gleaming dull silver under thin sun. Here and there, the ragged shapes of villages and holdfasts, their smoke a thin, tenuous promise of warmth. Drogon's shadow crossed them briefly. Men and women below pointed up, then curled tighter around their fires. She saw the Maester's tower at Winterfell from above, steam from the hot springs rising in gentle, ghostly plumes. The sight tugged at her. The memory of gray stone and northern hospitality, of Lysa Snow's careful stitches along the hem of a cloak. Drogon's wing dipped, as if he, too, had taken note of this place that smelled of wolves and hers. "No," she murmured. "Not today." He rumbled, but kept his heading. Beyond Winterfell the land softened into rolling hills, the snow shallowed, and occasional patches of brown earth peeked through. The trident's icy braids flashed beneath them, then the dark mass of the next swamps, shrouded in thin mist. South of that, the air felt different. Subtle at first, a touch less knife-like, a hint more forgiving, but it grew with each league. Daenerys' numb fingers regained some feeling. The snow thinned. The forests changed character, darker and thicker. Here, villages seemed closer together. She saw fields lying fallow under light snow, long houses patched and snug, smoke rising in thicker columns. Men on the King's Road gaped as a great black shape passed overhead, some dropping to their knees, others bolting from their horses and diving for what shelter the ditches offered. Drogon liked the air here. She could feel it in the way he moved, the little flecks of muscle that spoke of contentment. This was closer to the climate of Essos, to the skies over Karth and Meereen. The scents on the wind changed, salt, faintly, and tar, and the distant breath of a great city's smoke. By the time Dragonstone's jagged silhouette rose from the sea, teeth of black rock biting into gray waves, Daenerys' muscles felt like they belonged to someone else. The wind had burrowed into her bones, but her heart, that was beating fast and hot and alive. "Home," she whispered. Not hers, not yet, but closer to it than anywhere else she'd stood in Westeros. Dragonstone had been carved in an age when men still remembered what dragons looked like. The fortress rose from the island's black rock in a profusion of stone beasts. Wings unfurled, necks coiled, claws gripping parapets. Their mouths gaped over courtyards and sea, frozen mid-roar. Smoke curled from vents where the volcano's heart still smoldered. As Drogon circled, Daenerys felt a strange resonance. The shapes below were crude imitations, stone and chisel's best guess at what her children were by nature. But there was something in them that recognized him. Or perhaps it was only that men long ago had looked at creatures like him and tried to capture the memory before it faded. They failed, she thought, but they tried. "Seven save us," someone whispered below. She saw them then on a high balcony. 3 figures clustered near the edge. One tall and hard-faced, in plain dark armor with a stag's head on his breast. Beside him, shorter, broader, in plain wool and a cloak too thin for the wind, fingers clamped white on the stone. The third, a red slash of color in the gloom, her hair aflame about her shoulders. Stannis Baratheon did not step back as Drogon's shadow fell over the balcony. His mouth tightened, his jaw worked, but he did not move. Davos Seaworth flinched and then forced himself still, squinting upward against the dragon's passage. Melisandre smiled. "Your Grace," she said, her voice almost lost in the wind but somehow reaching him. The fires did not lie. Drogon spiraled lower, snorting, his breath a smoke plume. Daenerys guided him toward the great courtyard before the carved main gate. The stone dragons that flanked it seemed almost to shift, their carved eyes tracking the real one above. Men poured into the yard. Guards with spears, servants in rough-spun, a few lords' men with better mail. All of them stared. When Drogon dropped the last stretch and slammed into the courtyard stones, the earth jumped. Dust rose. Spears wavered. Daenerys slid down, boots hitting the familiar roughness of volcanic rock. Heat breathed up from small vents and cracks underfoot, a strange, subtle warmth that reminded her of the bath chambers in Meereen. The air smelled of ash and salt and old smoke. She unfastened her cloak, letting it fall back from her shoulders. Silver hair spilled. Dragonstone's wind tried to snatch it. She did not let it. "Daenerys of House Targaryen," she called, pitching her voice to carry. "Stormborn, mother of dragons, guest of the north." Men muttered. The words "mother of dragons" fluttered through them like a spark. Stannis descended into the yard with measured steps, his cloak snapping. Davos followed, jaw clenched. Melisandre glided. "Guest of the North," Stannis repeated. His voice was rasped raw from years of command and too little joy. "Those are words I did not expect to hear from your mouth." "They are new," she said. "The world has changed since the last raven reached you." "You've brought it a dragon," he said flatly. His eyes flicked to Drogon's vast form. "And a war we do not have ships or men to fight." "I've brought it a warning," Daenerys replied. "And a chance to do your duty to the realm in a way no stag has yet managed." His jaw tightened. Duty was a word that could still touch him. "Come inside," he said. "If you mean to speak of duty, you'll do it at my table, not in my yard." Melisandre's eyes shone with a private satisfaction as Daenerys followed him into the belly of the Dragonstone castle. The painted table was a dragon in repose. Daenerys had heard of it. Aegon's gift to himself, a map of Westeros carved and painted in such detail that every inlet and mountain was rendered. She had imagined it 100 times, picturing her ancestors bent over it plotting conquest. Seeing it now in the flesh of old wood was different. The colors had faded. The edges were worn where too many hands had traced the same paths. But the shape of the land was clear. And for the first time, she stood not on some foreign shore imagining where she might land. She stood in the land itself, looking down at a toy that thought it understood reality. She set her hand on the far north. "The wall," she said. "Here, and here." Her finger moved outward, drawing a crescent. "The dead." Stannis' mouth thinned. "Jeor Mormont writes of walking corpses and demons of ice," he said. "He says my brother's bastard stands at his side and your dragons burn the snow." "Afanci fultale." "It is true," Daenerys said. "I have seen them. Jon Snow has fought them. Robb Stark has buried men who will not stay buried." She tapped the northern curve. "They crossed the fist of the first men and broke the watch there. They march now toward the wall. And your wolves and dragons stand with them," Melisandre said softly. Her hands rested lightly on the table's edge, ruby pulsing. "Just as the flames showed me." Davos shifted. "With respect, your grace," he said, addressing Stannis. "The Night's Watch has no reason to lie about such things. They gain nothing by pretending monsters walk in the snow. And if even half of what's written is true, then the realm faces a danger that makes Joffrey's crown and Lannister gold look very small," Melisandre finished. "I have told you this before, in other words. Now the proof comes to your doorstep on black wings." Stannis' eyes flicked between them. He did not like being told what he had already been told. He did not like feeling cornered. "You ask me to sail north," he said to Daenerys. "With what ships I have left. To stand on a wall for the sake of men who named me usurper and bowed to my nephew. I ask you to fight for the living," she said. "For the chance that there will still be a realm for you to claim anything over." His jaw clenched. "It is my right." "Rights melt in the dark," Daenerys said. "Only deeds remain." He stared at her for a long moment. The silence stretched, filled only by the distant boom of waves against Dragonstone's cliffs. "You would speak of deeds," he said at last. "Daughter of the king who burned men in their armor rather than yield." "My father was mad," she said quietly. "Fire without purpose. I have burned slavers, murderers, men who would chain children to posts in the sun. And yesterday, I burned corpses that would have killed every man at the wall and risen again in their bodies." Her hand tightened on the painted wood. "Do not confuse me with him." Davos' gaze softened, a fraction. "And the North?" he asked. "You stand with them now?" "I swore to their king under his god's eyes," she said. "I knelt in the snow and vowed not to take their crowns or their homes by fire. I will keep that oath." Stannis' nostrils flared. The idea of a Targaryen doing what he thought right even when it burned her own claim offended and intrigued him in equal measure. "If you sail north," Daenerys went on, "you will not go as my vassal, nor as my king. You will go as Stannis Baratheon, rightful claimant to a throne that will mean nothing if the wall falls. You will stand beside Stark and Snow and Mormont, And when the dead are pushed back, when winter passes, we will talk again of thrones. And if I refuse, he asked. Then you will sit on your rock and watch the sky grow white, she said, until one day the sea at your feet freezes solid, and the things in the storm come and take Dragonstone stone by stone. I cannot stop that alone. Melisandre's eyes gleamed. He will go, she said softly. He has always been the only one willing to fight the war that matters. Stannis' glare snapped to her. Do not speak for me, he snapped. Then speak, Daenerys said. He looked down at the painted land. His hand hovered over the Vale, the Riverlands, the Crownlands. Then it moved north to the Wall. I have ships, he said. Men. Not enough. Never enough. But some. Dragonstone's lords owe me one last debt. His jaw hardened. We sail north. Davos closed his eyes briefly, as if in prayer or acceptance. When he opened them, he met Daenerys' gaze. Then let's hope the ice waits long enough, he said, for all of us to get there. Dragonstone's harbor smelled of tar and old storms. The ships rocked at their moorings, dark silhouettes against a choppy gray sea. Banners fluttered from their masts. The crowned stag of Baratheon over the fiery heart of the Lord of Light. A few still bearing the plain black stag of Stannis' earlier claim. Ropes creaked. Sailcloth snapped in the brisk wind that came whipping around the island's jagged teeth of rock. Men moved along the docks in a purposeful rush. Barrels were rolled, crates lugged, kegs swung in nets from dock to deck. Bundles of firewood, scarce but vital, were lashed down. Casks of grain and salted meat joined them. Armorers checked mail for rust and straps for wear. Priests of R'hllor walked among them, hands raised, muttering blessings over steel and sail. From a crag above the harbor, Drogon watched. He crouched like one of Dragonstone's carved guardians brought to life, wings mantled just enough to keep his balance, tail curled around the rock. His presence made the dockworkers glance up more often than they might otherwise have. Some with awe, some with poorly concealed fear. Daenerys walked beside Davos along the main pier. The smuggler-turned hand had his cloak pulled tight, his weathered face set in habitual concern. You're putting a great deal of weight on some old wood, your grace, he said, looking up at Drogon. Ships and dragons together. If one goes down, the other won't be much comfort. I know, she said, but he won't fly north with them. Drogon comes with me to Eastwatch, then back to the Wall. The ships sail beneath the storm. He flies above or around it, hoping the storm lets him, Davos muttered. She glanced at him. You don't believe in your red woman's flames, she said, or her god. Yet you go with a man who follows both. I believe in Stannis, he said simply. For all his faults, he tries to do what's right, even when it breaks him. That's more than most kings can say. He gave her a small, crooked smile. And I believe what I've seen. I've seen ships burn green on the Blackwater. I've seen boys poisoned for crowns. And now I've seen your dragon. I'm not fool enough to say it's all trickery. Yet you look at the Wall and think this might still be some northern fancy. He shook his head. No. I look at the Wall and think this. We're very small, and what's coming is very big. His fingers strayed to the pouch at his throat, where bone tokens clicked softly. We do what we can, even if it's not enough. She considered that, then nodded. What will you do? She asked. If we survive, if the Wall holds, if the dead fall, and there is still a south to return to. He laughed once without much humor. I'm a smuggler who spent too long pretending to be a knight, he said. If I live that long, I'll count my fingers again and thank whoever's listening. After that, we'll see. Maybe I'll run a little ship between White Harbor and Bravos. Trade fish and stories. A small life, she said. A free one, he replied. Stannis' voice cut across the wind. He stood at the head of the pier, Melisandre at his shoulder, his face carved in the usual lines of sternness. Get your dragon aloft, Targaryen, he called. If we're to catch what wind the gods send, we leave with the tide. Daenerys looked up at Drogon. Come, she said. Let's go fetch some kings to the wall. The Raven script was stark, plain, and uncompromising. Tyrion read it twice to be sure, then a third time for the bitter amusement of it. What say they? Cersei demanded. She was pacing near the window, where faint winter light filtered through heavy drapes. Her goblet had already been refilled twice. That the North's new menagerie has acquired another beast, Tyrion said. Stag this time, with a red woman on a string and a fleet underneath him. Tywin's gaze cut to him. Plainly, he said. Tyrion sighed theatrically and held up the scroll. Word from our friend in Gulltown, he said. A merchant vessel out of Dragonstone reports Stannis Baratheon has weighed anchor with every ship he can scrape together. Destination, Eastwatch-by-the-Sea, with, and I quote, the silver-haired dragon woman in his company and a great black monster that flew above the masts like death itself. Cersei's mouth twisted. Stannis, she spat. Sulking on that rock for years, and now he runs north the moment some witch waves fire at him. Hardly running, Tywin said. He goes because he sees an opening. He always has. Tyrion tapped the map where the wall was painted, then traced south to King's Landing. The wolves have dragons, he said. Now they have a stag with ships and a god who likes bonfires. All of them pointing north. Let them freeze, Cersei said. We have our own problems. The Tyrells grow more arrogant by the day. The faith murmurs against us. Joffrey is a liability, Tywin said coldly. We have discussed this. She flinched, then glared. You would truly replace your own grandson? Your blood. I would replace any piece that threatens the board, he said. His eyes had never left the map. Stannis and the Targaryen girl sailing north means one thing. They will not be sailing south. Not now. While they busy themselves on a wall of ice, we firm our hold on the capital. And if the tales are true? Tyrion asked softly. If there are dead men walking and ice demons throwing spears at dragons? His mismatched eyes flicked to his father. If they fall, what comes south afterward will not care who sits on the Iron Throne. Tywin did not answer at once. We prepare, he said finally. We always prepare. Qyburn, the former maester, inclined his head. The Scorpions are proceeding, my lord, he said. I have men in the forges in Lannisport, in King's Landing, in Old Town, working under other names. If dragons come south, we will have teeth to greet them. And if something else comes? Tyrion asked. Something that does not fly but walks, and does not burn so easily. Then we will kill it as we have killed everything else that threatened us, Tywin said. With steel, gold, and fear. Cersei laughed, brittle. Perhaps the dead will take care of our northern problem for us, she said. Let them eat Starks and Baratheons and dragon girls. We'll close our gates and watch from the walls. Tyrion's small hand smoothed the scroll. And if walls and gates mean as little to those things as the fist of the first men did? He asked. Will we still be laughing when they walk through the city and Joffrey tries to scream at them to kneel? Enough, Tywin snapped. He pushed a lion piece north, placing it far from the wall near Riverrun. Let them freeze and burn and make their legends, he said. We will rule what remains. For the first time, Tyrion wondered if his father's lack of belief was bravery or simply a different sort of madness. Integration, Jon was learning, was another kind of battle. The yard stank of sweat and horse and too many bodies forced into too small a space. Free folk fires had sprung up in corners where no fires had been before. Children darted underfoot, laughing in bursts that sounded more nervous than joyful. Night's Watch brothers moved among them with expressions that ranged from weary tolerance to open hostility. The fight started, as so many did, with a single insult. Crow cunt. A big raider spat at a black brother near the well. The man's beard was plated with little bones. His furs were patched and stained. Thief, the brother snapped back. You and yours stole our horses for years. You think a dragon makes you my neighbor now? All this is mine, the raider growled, swinging his arm to encompass yard, wall, sky. My father's hunted here before your first lordling ever thought to push a shit through his arse. Steel slid a finger's width from a scabbard. Someone shoved. A fist flew. Then half a dozen men were crashing together, a tangle of fists and curses and bodies. Enough! Jon roared. Ghost was faster than his voice. The direwolf shot between the factions, fur bristling, lips peeled back from his teeth. His snarl ripped through the yard like a physical thing. Men stumbled back on both sides. Rhaegal's shadow passed overhead, a dark smear as the green dragon shifted his perch. The memory of what his fire had done not a day ago was fresh enough that even the angriest paused. Jon stepped into the gap Ghost had made. He glared at the Free Folk raider first. You, he said, you swore to Mance you'd stand with us against what's coming. That means not killing men who are supposed to watch the wall with you. The raider bared his teeth. He spat on me, he said. Called me thief. Are you? Jon asked. The man said, and worse. But he doesn't get to name me that under this wall. Only my own do. And you, Jon said, turning to the black brother. You swore vows. To take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. To wear the black for the realm. That realm now includes him. He jerked his head at the raider. You don't have to like it. You do have to keep your bloody sword sheathed while the dead stand outside our door. The brother flushed, his jaw working. We're crows, he said, not wildling guards. You're shields that guard the realms of men, Jon snapped. These are men, unless you'd prefer them walking with blue eyes tomorrow. A murmur went through the onlookers. It was one thing to talk of whites in the abstract. It was another to imagine the man you just swung at coming back to tear your throat out. What if he swings at me again? The brother muttered. Then you swing back, Tormund Giantsbane called from where he lounged on an overturned barrel, watching with amused interest. With your tongue, not your steel. Save that for the cold ones. The raider snorted, then spat in the snow. I'll not be the one to break Mance's word, he said grudgingly. He sheathed his knife with a sharp shove. The brother followed suit, though more slowly. Jon let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He looked up at the wall, where the dead's pale light still glimmered beyond. This, he thought, may be the harder war. Winterfell's great hall had never felt so far from the center of things. The fire burned as it always had, sending sparks up into the blackened rafters. The banners hung where they always had. The carved direwolves watched from the walls. Yet Catelyn Stark felt as if she were sitting at the edge of the world, trying to hold the corner of a map that wanted to curl in on itself. Raven's messages lay spread before her, weighed down with daggers and tankards. Some from Castle Black, written in Jeor Mormont's hard hand. Some from holdfasts and minor keeps throughout the north, Carhold, Deepwood Motte, Barrowton, Torrens Square. All of them said some version of the same thing: we have little. Winter bites harder. You ask us to give more. Lord Cerwyn's cheeks were hollow, his cloak threadbare at the edges. Lady Glover's hands were calloused, ink smeared on her fingers from the letter she'd written before riding south. Wyman Manderly's younger son, Wylis, sat in his father's stead. His belly less impressive, but his eyes just as calculating. We have more mouths than ever, Wylis said, fingers drumming on the table. Refugees from the Wolfswood, from the Barrowlands, folk whose villages were raided by Ironborn or burned by lions. They come here because Winterfell's fires still burn. You ask us to send grain to the wall, to fatten men who do not farm and wildlings who never paid a tithe in their lives. And if we don't, Lady Glover said sharply, the wall falls. Then the dead come through and eat what's left of your larders for you. Wylis flushed. We are not blind to the threat, my lady, he said. But a lord's duty is to the folk beneath his roof first. Catelyn listened, her hands folded, their thinness hidden by her sleeves. When my husband rode south with the king, she said. He did not ask whether his duty ended at the neck. He went because winter had taken too many already, and Robert's wrath would take more if left unchecked. We face something worse now. She tapped one of Mormont's letters. The dead do not plant. she said. They do not reap. They do not bargain. If the wall breaks, they will not stop at White Harbor or Barrowton or Deepwood. They will not care whose harvests were light or whose children were hungry. They will make all of us equal in the only way that matters. A murmur of discomfort ran through the hall. Our king stands on that wall, she went on. My son, your liege, an army of dead men and giants stands below it. A dragon queen stands beside him. A dragon queen who has burned our enemies and sworn not to burn us. Her mouth tightened on the last words. It still cost her something to say them. If we do not answer that with what help we can give, what kind of North are we? We are a hungry one, Wylis muttered, but some of the iron had gone out of him. We cut deeper, Lady Glover said. Smaller rations, more men to hunt, fewer to sit by fires. Give what we can now, or all we've stored will be taken from us anyway. Cerwyn nodded slowly. My father died for your husband, he said to Catelyn. I am not about to say his sacrifice should mean I hoard grain while your son stands where he stood. Decisions made in halls had echoes on walls. Catelyn felt each one like a pebble dropped into a pond, the ripples moving outward. Then we keep giving, she said quietly, until we cannot, and we trust that the gods or the dragons meet us halfway. Outside, faint and distant, a dragon's roar rolled down from the farthest northern sky. Eastwatch-by-the-Sea was little more than a wound in the world where the wall met the water. From above, Daenerys saw its squat towers crouched against the ice, its small docks jutting out into a sea that looked more stone than water under the pale sky. Waves rolled in sluggishly, their edges crusted with forming ice. A handful of battered ships clung to the harbor, dwarfed by the wall's pale flank. Beyond them, the horizon was dotted now with other sails. Stannis' fleet had never been large, even before the Blackwater had claimed a good portion of it. What remained was scarred. Planks patched, masts replaced, some hulls permanently scorched by old wildfire. But the ships still moved with purpose, cutting through the gray chop, their sails snapping. Smoke from cookfires curled faintly up from their decks. Drogon glided above the lead ship, his shadow sliding over the deck. Men flinched, then forced themselves to stand straight. They had had a few days to get used to the great black presence over their heads. It had not become easier, only more familiar. On the quarterdeck below, Stannis stood at the rail, his cloak whipping, his eyes narrowed against the wind. Beside him, Davos braced himself against the roll of the ship. Melisandre's red gown snapped and twisted. She did not hold on to anything, her balance preternaturally sure. Daenerys shifted her weight as Drogon dipped a wing. She had flown ahead of the fleet to mark the path, then circled back to keep them in sight. It would be too easy for a storm to swallow them otherwise. Even now, clouds shifted on the horizon in a way she did not like. Too uniform, too distant. The wall grew taller as they approached, rising from the sea in a sheer face of ice that caught what little light there was and threw it back in cold, hard gleams. Drogon rumbled. I know, she murmured. It is not a place made for you. But we must stand there a while yet. She pictured the yard at Castle Black, the men crammed into its corners, the dragons huddled on the wall like gargoyles forced to live. She pictured Jon and Robb, their faces pinched with tiredness but still turned toward the north. She pictured the dead, patient and unchanging. Hold a little longer, she whispered to them, though they could not hear. Fire is coming. Eastwatch's docks groaned under new weight. The first of Stannis' ships slid into the narrow harbor with sails reefed and oars biting into the frigid water. Ropes flew, caught, were hauled taut. Gangplanks thudded against wood. Men swore as they leapt the gap from deck to dock, boots skidding on ice. Black brothers in their patched cloaks stood in awkward lines along the pier, their breath ghosting. Beside them, men in northern gray and green shifted, eyeing the newcomers with suspicion and something like relief. Above them all, the black banner of the Night's Watch snapped from the wall's edge, joined now by the direwolf of Stark, the crowned stag, and a red three-headed dragon hastily stitched onto borrowed cloth. Drogon landed on the frozen strand beyond the docks, snow and frost crunching under his claws. The wall loomed above him, the sea heaving at his back, making him for once look something less than all-powerful, caught between two immensities. Daenerys slid from his back, her cloak snapping, her boots crunching as she walked toward the pier. Stannis Baratheon came down his ship's planks with the same measured stride he had used descending Dragonstone steps. Davos followed, shoulders hunched against the cold. Melisandre moved behind them, as if the chill could not touch her. Jeor Mormont was there to meet them, his beard gone almost entirely white now, his bulk wrapped in black fur. Jon stood at his right, ghost a phantom at his side. Robb stood at his left, gray wind at his heels, the crude crown of the north on his head and exhaustion in the set of his shoulders. For a heartbeat, the pier held a stillness that felt almost ceremonial. "Lord Commander," Stannis said, "King in the north, bastard of Winterfell." His gaze flicked to Daenerys, "Dragon Queen." "Stannis Baratheon," Jeor replied. "You come as guest." Stannis' mouth tightened, but he inclined his head. "I come as the man who still remembers what oaths mean," he said, "and as the one who will not sit idle while others fight the war I was born to fight." Davos' breath fogged. He looked from Jon's scarred face to Daenerys' unbowed one to the wall's looming height. "Best get us inside, then," he muttered, "before my balls freeze off and the dead finish the rest." A ragged chuckle went through the assembled men, cutting some of the tension. Daenerys looked up at the wall, at the banners flapping there, at the faint, pale band on the horizon that marked where the dead waited. For the first time since she had crossed the narrow sea, she felt something like balance. Kings of stag and wolf, a queen of dragon, crows and wildlings, all standing in one place. It would not last. Alliances never did. But for now, for this moment, the world had drawn its scattered fires together on the edge of the dark. "Welcome to the end of the world," Jon said to Stannis. Stannis' eyes narrowed. "Not the end," he said. "Not while we still stand." Daenerys set her shoulders. "Then let us stand," she thought, "and see how long the night really is." The hall was too small for so many crowns. Smoke from the hearth clung to the rafters, thick and low. Candles guttered in iron sconces, their wax dribbling down like pale tears. The long table at the center of the room had been dragged from the mess hall. Now it bore a map scratched into stiff parchment and weighed with whatever came to hand. Daggers, tankards, a chunk of ice someone had hacked from the wall and set there as a reminder. Jeor Mormont stood at the head, his black cloak throwing off a faint smell of wet fur. At his right, Robb Stark in his battered leathers and wolf-headed brooch. At his left, Stannis Baratheon, mail and plate plain but meticulous, jaw set. Daenerys stood between the two kings, hands braced on the table's edge, silver hair braided back from her face. Jon took a place slightly behind Jeor, ghost pressed against his leg. Mance Rayder lounged on a bench, arms folded. Davos stood quietly near Stannis' shoulder, while Melisandre's red robes burned against the gloom at the far side. "Numbers," Jeor said. "We talk about numbers first." "We can't count them," Jon said. "Not properly. The dead move like a tide. But we know this, fewer than there were. More than we can face in the open." "Thousands," Robb added. His finger traced a rough line in the blank white inked north of the wall. "But not endless. The spears and the dragons proved that." Stannis grunted. "You don't fight a war by saying not endless and hoping the gods take the difference," he said. "How many bows? How many spears? How much food? Watch brothers with bows. 150 that can hit what they aim at," Jeor said. "Another 100 who can at least point their arrows in the right direction. Northmen. 300 swords now, with more promised if winter leaves them any grain to send. Free folk. 500 who'll stand and swing. Another 1,000 who'll stand if the man next to them does. Men from Dragonstone and the Stormlands," Davos added. 2,000, give or take. Good fighters, most of them. Not much use on ice yet. They'll learn or they'll die. Dragons," Mance said dryly. 3. Though one limps. Rhaegal will fight, Daenerys said. He just won't range far. That makes him a guardian, not a spearhead. Guardians, Stannis said. Spearheads, banners. His mouth thinned. All words. The enemy doesn't care whose sigil your men wear. They care how warm their flesh is and how easily it can be turned. They care about command, Jon said. Kill one of the White Walkers, the whites around them fall. We saw it. If we want to break them, we have to keep killing those. And how do you propose we do that when they're surrounded by an army of dead men carrying our own faces? Wyman Manderly's son, Wylis, representing White Harbor, said from further down the table. Send your dragons back and forth until they fall from the sky? Yes, Daenerys said simply. And no, she tapped the map. They don't all stay behind the line. We saw it, some move to the flanks. Some ride closer when they're testing us. We hit those. Fast. Hard. Always with dragonglass ready to follow where dragonfire cannot reach. Stannis' finger stabbed at Eastwatch, etched at the wall's eastern end. The dead do not need roads, he said, or gates. If they can freeze a river, they can freeze a sea. If they come around the wall along the shore, your dragons won't be enough. Then we make the sea our ally as well, Melisandre said quietly. Fire on water burns as surely as fire on land. Davos flinched, memories of green flame on the Blackwater flickering behind his eyes. We're not using wildfire here, Qyburn said flatly. I won't have half my wall melted because some alchemist in a green robe thinks he's clever. Oil, Stannis said. Pitch, anything that floats and burns. We've brought some. Not enough. Daenerys narrowed her eyes at the map. The wall, the forest, Eastwatch, the sea. Then the next blow comes from the water, she said. We know they are patient, but they will test the places we are weakest. Eastwatch is the thinnest plank in this wall. Mance tilted his head. They'll come where there are fewer of us, he agreed. They smell weakness like wolves smell blood. Then we put teeth there, Robb said. Wolves, stags, dragons. Stannis' mouth twisted, but he did not object. So, Qyburn put both hands on the table. We plan as if the next night will bring them to the sea. And if it does not, we count that as borrowed time. Borrowed time runs out, Melisandre murmured. Debt always comes due. We'll pay it when we must, Daenerys said. With fire. The sea at Eastwatch sounded different at night. It rolled in slow, heavy breaths against the rocks, each wave a dull, sullen boom. Ice had begun to crust along the shore, thin sheets clinging to black stone, foaming slush where the water met the land. The air smelled of brine and cold metal. Torches pricked the darkness along the dock and shore. Barrels of pitch lined the water's edge, their tarry reek sharp. Iron braziers glowed on ship decks, casting jittering halos onto sailcloth and rope. Men moved like shadows between them, arms burdened with rope nets, clay fire pots, bundled dragonglass-dipped arrows. Jon walked the line with Davos at his side. Ghost ghosted in and out of torchlight, a white flicker against the dark. My men are used to storms, Davos said. They're not used to storms that walk. They will be soon, Jon replied. On one of the ships, a squat, broad-bellied vessel that had once run smugglers' routes along the fingers. Stannis' banner hung stiff in the still air. The king himself stood near the bow, watching the dark water with the same stern patience he turned on councils and sieges. Your folk aren't used to ships, Davos pointed out, nodding toward a huddle of free folk near a stack of fire pots. They look like they'd rather fight the sea than sail on it. Some of them have, Jon said, raided the stony shore. These ones, he eyed the cluster, raiders and hunters with furs too thin for this kind of cold. They'll stand on the rocks and throw fire. They don't need decks under their feet to kill what walks onto ice. The plan had been hammered out with all the subtlety of a blacksmith at work. If the dead tried to skirt the wall along the coastline, they would have to cross either treacherous shallows or rapidly freezing sea. Their ships might have an advantage, their hulls moving where feet slipped. Dragons could set the water itself ablaze, at least for a moment, if given fuel. And men with bows might turn that narrow belt of ice into a killing ground. If it worked, the word echoed under every breath. Signal fires are ready, a Night's Watch officer reported, approaching. If we see them coming at the coast, we can warn the wall. They won't come when we expect, Jon said. They never do, but they will come. He felt it in the air. Not just cold, but a wrongness like old meat left too long outside. Far offshore, the sea shifted in a way that had nothing to do with wind or tide. Davos squinted. What in the seven hells is that? The water itself seemed to hunch, then crack. A thin sheen of ice rippled out from a point in the dark, spreading in a blooming pattern. Wave crests froze mid-rise and fell back in slow, gelatinous lumps. They've begun, Jon said. The mist was the first thing they saw. It rolled low over the water, too fast and too uniform to be natural. Not the ragged fingers of sea fog that crept in on some mornings, but a creeping wall, its edges sharp. Where it passed, the water beneath it stilled, not in the way of gentle calm, but in the sudden, brutal flatness of something that had been forced. Ice formed under the mist, not gradually with the patient layering of winter, but in an instant. A white skin racing over the gray, thickening as it went. Waves arrested mid-rise, transformed into frozen humps. The line of frost surged toward the shore. Then shapes appeared in the mist. At first, they were only darker smudges against the pale. Then they resolved into figures. Men in rotted mail and furs stiff with salt, barefoot corpses with barnacles clinging to their legs, sailors in torn surcoats emblazoned with half-remembered sigils. They walked across the ice as if across a frozen courtyard, their steps clumsy but inexorable. Some dragged chains, others carried rusted swords or broken oars. Here and there, something taller shambled. Creatures that had once been seals or great fish, pulled from the deeps and repurposed. Light the pots, Jon shouted. Archers, to the line. Men scrambled, torches plunged into open barrels. Pitch caught, flames turning thick and greasy. Clay jars with rags protruding from their necks were thrust into the fires, then hoisted. On the ships further out, signal horns sounded. Stannis vessels shifted, oars dipping, turning to form a ragged crescent just beyond the forming ice. Their decks bristled with archers, barrels of oil ready. The mist kept coming. Wait, Davos said through his teeth as a watch brother raised an arm to throw. Wait until they're dense as lice on a beggar. They're close enough, the man grated. Closer, Davos insisted, or you'll just make steam. The line of dead on the ice thickened. More poured out of the mist, their ranks swelling, a parody of an advancing infantry line. Now, Davos said. Fire bloomed. The first wave of clay pots shattered on the ice with dull cracks. Pitch splashed, thick and dark. For half a heartbeat nothing happened. Then the rags still burning inside them kissed the puddles. Flame rushed outward in sudden, hungry lines. It snaked along the ice, chasing the paths of spilled pitch, licking up into the hems of dead men's clothes. Whites screamed without breath as their frost-stiffened furs went up, their limbs flailing. From the ships, burning arrows arced through the air, their orange trails a counterpoint to the pale mist. They found carpets of oil poured over the ice and set them blazing, turning flat white into churning orange. Drogon, Daenerys shouted. He was already moving. The dragon plunged from the sky in a steep dive, wings folded tight until the last possible moment. He skimmed so close to the water that spray kissed his belly. His jaws opened. Fire gouged out, not in a narrow lance but in a broad, searing fan. It swept across the ice in front of the advancing whites, turning freshly formed frost into a roaring avenue of steam and molten, cracking plates. Dead men tumbled into the fractures, their bodies flaring and then sinking, limbs thrashing as water and flame fought over them. The sea itself seemed to hiss in pain. On the shore, heat washed over Jon's face, searing the inside of his nose. The men flinched back, even those who had seen dragonfire once already. Free folk who had laughed at the idea of southern magic stumbled, eyes wide. Again, Qyburn roared. Keep them off the bloody shore. Drogon wheeled, gaining height. Regal and Viserion, still weary but unwilling to let their brother fly alone, took shorter plunges, their own flames stitching the gaps. For a moment it worked. The ice shattered. The dead fell into water and did not come up. The line of whites thinned under the combined assault of fire from shore, ship, and sky. Then the mist thickened. Within the mist, something moved against the pattern. Where fire and water met, there should have been only steam and collapsing ice. For a moment, that was all there was. Great gouts of vapor billowing up, obscuring everything. The roar of flame, the hiss of boiling water, the crack of failing ice. Then a shape stepped up from the churn. It was taller than the whites around it, armor pale as fog, hair like carved frost. It walked out onto a mound of frozen sea that had no right to be there, forming beneath its feet as if the water itself had decided to harden in deference. Its sword was already in its hand, the blade gleaming with a cold that hurt to look at. It raised the sword. The mist obeyed. The steam sucked back as if inhaled. The heat seemed to drain from the air. The fire on the nearest patch of pitch guttered, weakened, not extinguished but curled inward, constrained. Frost crawled outward from the walker's feet, racing over water and broken ice, knitting cracks, smoothing unstable flows into new, treacherous bridges. Whites walked on while they burned, their clothes charred, skin blackened and peeling, parts of them sloughing off into the water. Yet their feet continued to move, carrying them forward along the newly frozen paths, each step leaving a briefly smoking footprint that vanished as the cold chased it down. On the lead ship, Davos swore. 7 bloody hells, he muttered. You can't drown what doesn't mind sinking. Keep firing, Stannis barked. Aim for the pale bastards, not the drowned ones. Archers shifted their aim, searching for flashes of that impossible armor among the chaos. A handful of arrows found their mark, clattering off the walker's breast or shattering against its sword, useless as twigs. Dragonglass, Jon said under his breath, watching from the shore. We need dragonglass on the sea. How? A watch brother demanded. We can't throw spears that far. Then we carry them closer, Jon said. His stomach turned at the thought, but some part of him, hardened by too much death already, accepted it. They want to walk the water, he said. Then we'll greet them there. The little boat creaked as if it resented being dragged into such madness. It had been a fishing skiff once, its hull patched with crude tar and prayer. Now it slid along a narrow channel hacked through the shore ice, its passage guided by 2 free folk with long poles, men used to coaxing boats through dangerous shallows. Keep low, Jon said. The words were half to himself. He knelt near the bow, ghost pressed against his side. The direwolf's paws were braced, claws scratching lightly at the damp wood, red eyes fixed ahead. Jon's fingers gripped the dragonglass spear so tightly his knuckles ached. Beside him, Mance Rayder crouched, his patchwork cloak tucked tight around him, a dragonglass-dipped spear of his own resting across his knees. Behind them, 4 men from the watch and 4 free folk knelt, each with obsidian knives and short spears. Their faces were set in the grim steadiness that came when fear had nowhere else to go. Above them, Drogon roared. The dragon's shadow shivered over the mist and ice, drawing the eyes of whites and walkers alike. He spat another burst of flame at a distant knot of dead, not to destroy them, but to distract. The others' ice spears followed him, their attention arcing upward. Faster, Jon muttered. The poles bit into the ice-edged channel, muscles in the men's shoulders bunching. The skiff slid forward, cracking thin sheets of frost that tried to reform across the water. Ahead, the ice shelf thickened again. Beyond it, Jon could see the pale figures of walkers moving, their horses' hooves not sinking at all. Closer, whites stumbled along a cracked floe, some falling to their knees when the ice shifted under them. "We cut under their line," Mance whispered. "Knock the legs out from under them." "They don't need legs," Jon said. "They need whatever keeps them standing." He tightened his grip on the spear. Ghost stepped onto the ice without hesitation. The direwolf's paws found grip where human boots might not. He looked back once, as if to say keep up, then bounded forward in low, swift leaps, circling wide to where a walker rode along the frozen ridge, its attention fixed on Drogon's latest pass. "Now or never," Mance said. They went. The ice moved. Each floe shuddered as Jon landed on it, a jolt running up through his legs. Cracks spidered outward from his boots, some deeper than others. Water gleamed black through the seams. His breath came in harsh, burning gasps. The air knifed his lungs. His fingers tightened on the spear, slick with melt and sweat. Ghost was a blur at the edge of his vision, circling wide. The direwolf's paws barely seemed to touch the ice, his white coat a phantom flicker against the frozen sea. The walker stood ahead. It had dismounted, for reasons Jon could not guess. Its horse stood a little way back, steam curling faintly from its nostrils as cold battled with some remnant of animal heat. The walker itself turned, drawn by the crunch of boots and the scent of living flesh. Its eyes were a color Jon had only ever seen in the heart of certain glaciers in the far north. Blue that was not sky, not sea, but some third thing. The sword came up, thin and terrible. Behind Jon, Mance and the others crashed into a knot of wights that had noticed the living intrusion. Obsidian blades rose and fell. Dead hands clawed. The clash of bone and dragonglass made a sound unlike any steel meeting steel, more like glass grinding on stone. Jon's world narrowed to the space between himself and the walker. "Ghost!" he rasped. The dire wolf understood. He leapt, not at the walker but at its horse. White fur and red eyes met dead hide and pale mane. Ghost's jaws clamped around the horse's foreleg, teeth sinking into flesh that crackled like old ice. The animal, whatever it was now, screamed, a high, shrill sound, toppled, crashing sideways into a cluster of whites. The walker's head snapped toward the movement. Jon took the opening. He drove the spear forward with every ounce of strength he had, aiming not for the chest but higher. The walker turned back, sword already in motion, blade angled to deflect. Obsidian met ice. The spearhead glanced off the raised sword, skidding along its unnatural edge. For a heartbeat, both weapons sang, a high, brittle note that made Jon's teeth ache. Frost raced up the spear's shaft, numbing his hands. Again, Mance shouted behind him. Jon twisted, pushing into the movement instead of away. He let the spear slide, then jerked it downward and up, angling for the walker's throat where the armor left a faint gap. The blade came down, ice-kissed leather, then skin. Pain exploded along Jon's shoulder, cold before heat. His legs buckled. The spear slid from nerveless fingers. Ghost hit the walker from behind. The direwolf's weight drove into its legs, claws scraping across armor that shrieked where they met it. The walker staggered, not much, but enough. Its sword went wide. The killing stroke turned into a grazing one. Jon fell to one knee. His hand closed on the spear's shaft again. He drove it up. The obsidian head punched into the walker's exposed throat, just above the collar of frozen mail. For an instant, nothing happened. Then its eyes went wide. The blue in them fractured, splintered into 1,000 shards of light. Its form trembled, lines of cracking ice racing out from the wound. With a sound like a lake breaking in spring, it exploded into a cloud of frost and razor flakes. The sword dropped, clattering onto the ice, then shattering into fragments. Around them, a ring of whites collapsed, limbs twisting as whatever held them together let go. Some fell half-turned, others mid-step. They lay still, scattered like discarded puppets. Jon sagged, the world tilting. "Up, snow," Mance panted, catching his arm. "We're not done yet." Blood ran hot and sticky down Jon's arm, steaming in the freezing air. Ghost pressed against his side, eyes still blazing. Somewhere above, Drogon roared approval. Night pressed close to the wall. The dead did not attack again that day. They had tested the sea and the ships and the dragonfire, and for now that seemed to be enough. Their pale light hovered at the edge of sight, a faint ghost glow beyond the forest and ice, more felt than seen. On the wall's crest, men moved more quietly. Voices stayed low, as if they feared to carry into the dark. Wounds were bound, dead were counted, fires were nursed carefully, every scrap of fuel a calculation. Near a lone brazier, Robb Stark and Stannis Baratheon stood in a pool of orange light. The heat from the coals made only a small dent in the wall's ancient cold. Their breath still plumed. Frost still clung to their brows. But the fire was a symbol as much as warmth. "You did well," Robb said. It sounded like it cost him something to say it. Praise did not come easily from him, not for men he might have been raised to see as adversaries. Stannis' jaw worked. "I did my duty," he said. "No more, no less. Plenty of men fail at that," Robb said. "Especially when the duty lies somewhere they'd rather not go." "Like a wedding feast," Stannis said dryly. Robb's mouth twitched. "Walder Frey paid for that," he said. And for once, fire burned the right hall. Stannis' gaze went to the dead-flushed horizon. "There will be more halls if we fall," he said. "All of them, north and south. Yours.
Mine.
Lannisters. Tyrells. The dead don't care for lions or roses." "The dead don't care for wolves either," Robb said quietly. "Or dragons." Stannis studied him. "You broke oath once," he said, "to the phrase, married for love instead of advantage. Cost you men, almost cost you your head. And yet here you stand, still king, still making oaths." "I didn't choose to be king," Robb said. "My men lifted me. I've been paying for it since." "That is what it is," Stannis said. "A debt. A crown is a weight of promises. Most men think it's gold. The stone." He glanced at Daenerys, a little way off speaking with Qyburn and Mance, dragons silhouetted behind her like moving hills. She chose it in her way, took her father's claim onto her own shoulders. "She chose wolves over thrones," Robb said. "At least for now." Stannis snorted. "No one like her gives up a crown," he said. "She's paused, not abandoned. Once this is done, she will look south again." "And you?" Robb asked. "What will you look to when this is done?" Stannis stared into the brazier's coals. "If there is a throne," he said, "I will demand my right to it. If there is none, then I will die knowing I did what I could. My brothers died for less." Robb looked away, toward the dead line. "I died once," he said quietly. "Or nearly, at the twins. At least the boy I was did. Sometimes I think I've been a ghost walking ever since." "You still bleed," Stannis said. "You still err. You still get up. That's what matters." "Until it doesn't," Robb replied. They stood in silence for a while, two kings whose crowns weighed different in their minds, watching an enemy that cared for neither duty nor right. The wall had corners where the wind's voice was softer. Daenerys found one of them just past a crooked watchtower, where a jut of ice created a small lee. Here, the roar dulled to a low moan, and men's voices from further along were only distant threads. She stood with her hands tucked into her sleeves, the cold still chewing the tips of her fingers despite fur and leather. Below, the field was a patchwork of shadow and faint glow. Beyond that, only the dead's pale line. Jon joined her without announcement. Ghost padded ahead, circling once before flopping down between them, a warm, solid presence. Regal lay above, draped along a spine of ice, his injured wing tucked close, his breath steaming in slow plumes. "You should be resting," Jon said. "So should you," she replied. He made a face. "It's hard to sleep when the enemy you killed once might be standing up again while you dream." "Then don't dream," she said softly. "Just stand. For a while." They did. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It had been forged in fire and snow and the shared knowledge of things no one south of this wall would fully believe. "Do you believe him?" Jon asked at last. Stannis, she said, I believe he will do what he thinks is right. Even if it breaks him, that makes him dangerous and useful. Jon's jaw flexed. I meant, do you believe there will be an after for him? Or for us? She considered the line of dead light, then the faint flutter of banners at their backs. I have to, she said. If I let go of that, I'm back in the red waste. Every step just one more toward a grave. I used to think I'd die on a bit of frozen ground no one remembered the name of, Jon said. Sword in my hand, brother at my side. Or alone. The thought didn't bother me as much as it should have. And now? She asked. He looked at her. Now it bothers me, he said simply. Because if I die up here, I die knowing there were things I could have done elsewhere. For Robb. For the North. For you. For whatever world is left when this is done. Heat bloomed in her chest, faint but real. What do you want, Jon Snow? She asked. If we live, if the wall holds, if the dead fall and the South remembers that we kept it from freezing. He huffed a breath that might have been a laugh. My wants don't matter much beside dragons and crowns, he said. I didn't ask whose matter more, she said. I asked what they are. He was quiet a long time. I want, he hesitated, searching for words. I want a home I don't have to leave. A family that doesn't break the moment a raven arrives. I want a world where men like my father, Ned, not the man who sired me, don't have to die for someone else's lies. Where boys don't grow up thinking they're half people because some lord wouldn't own them. Ghost's ears twitched. And you? He asked. What do you want when you look south? She thought of the Iron Throne, of swords melted and cruelly rearranged, of the way it had loomed in the House of the Undying's vision like a promise and a threat. I want a world where thrones are worth less than the men who sit beneath their shadow, she said. Where a child born in Flea Bottom isn't meat for some lord's games. Where freedmen stay free. Her mouth quirked. And yes, I want the men who killed my family to answer for it. I won't pretend otherwise. Fire and justice, he said quietly. I was born in fire, she said. You were born in winter. Perhaps between us we can make something like justice. Or at least something new. The idea hung there between them, fragile as the breath that carried it. Regal shifted above, one eye opening briefly to regard them. Ghost huffed and buried his nose in his paws. Far off, a faint howl lifted. A living wolf, somewhere south of the wall. It sounded more question than threat. What if there is no after? Jon asked. Then we'll never have to find out whether we deserved it, she said. For now, we stand. The Raven Tower always smelled of ink and guano and old, cold stone. The wind rattled at its narrow windows, making the glass panes chatter. The single candle on the desk burned low, its stub casting a small circle of light in which Maester Aemon's hands moved, thin and spotted and steady. He could no longer see the parchment before him, but he did not need to. The quill in young Clyda's hand scratched in time with his words, the sound a steady counterpoint to the raven's restless muttering. To the lords of the 7 kingdoms, Aemon said. His voice was thin but clear. To those who remember their oaths and those who have forgotten them. To those who think the wall a story and winter a season like any other. He paused, listening to the faint, distant roar of a dragon somewhere in the night. We write to tell you this, the dead walk, he went on. Not as tales in a hearthside song, but as an army at our gates. We have seen them, we have fought them. The blood of the north has soaked the snow, the blood of the free folk, the blood of a king who sailed from the south to stand where his duty called him. Dragonfire has burned where once only torches sputtered. Clyda's quill scratched faster. The wall holds for now, Aemon said. It holds because men of no house and high houses alike have chosen to stand together. Stark and Baratheon, Snow and Mormont, a Targaryen queen who swore her dragons to the North's defense. Wildlings who once raided your flocks now die defending a world that never claimed them. He lifted a hand. Clyda stopped writing, breath-catching. Should they fall? Aemon said softly. The dead will not stop here. They will march past us, past Winterfell, past the Neck. They will fill your keeps and your cities. They will climb your walls and break your gates. And they will not care what banners you flew when you were warm. One of the ravens croaked, a harsh, startling sound. Another shuffled on its perch, feathers rustling. Eamon smiled faintly in its direction. We ask you for men, he said, for food, for fire, for steel, even knowing steel alone will not suffice. Most of all, we ask you to remember that there is but one war that matters now. Not for thrones or gold or names, but for the right to see another spring. He lowered his hand. That will do, he murmured. Send it. Clydas sanded the ink, then rolled the parchment carefully. He sealed it with black wax. The Night's Watch crow pressed into it and tied it to the leg of a waiting raven. This one had a single white feather among its black, a small, incongruous mark. Fly, Clydas whispered, opening the window, cold knifed in. The raven launched itself into the night, wings beating hard as it fought the wind. It dwindled quickly, a scrap of stubborn life heading south through the cold sky toward men who played at politics while the wall watched the dark. Behind it, in the tower, Aemon Targaryen, old, blind, last of his name in the South's reckoning, turned his face toward the faint, distant rumble of dragons and smiled. The wheel turns, he murmured. This time, perhaps, it will crack. Outside, on the wall and beyond it, armies of flesh and frost waited to see if he was right.